You are now listening to the Hunter's Advantage podcast. We preserve the history and sport of hunting through curious conversation and action-packed hunts, as well as offering you tips and strategy for more successful hunts. The Hunter's Advantage podcast is powered by Out on a Limb Manufacturing. Out on a Limb is a family-owned company based right here in Oklahoma that makes tree stands, saddle platforms, climbing sticks, and so much more.
Christian, I have a quick question.
What's that?
What bites down harder, a hippo or an alligator?
No idea.
It's a trick question. The Ridge Runner 2.0 bites harder than both of them. But all jokes aside, we use these products all across the land on public or private. These help us get into any tree we want and hunt where the deer actually are.
Most men go to the grocery store for their meat, but these products help you go to God's grocery store. I have used the Out on a Limb Ridge Runner 2.0 and the Shakar sticks for the last few years hunting public land bucks, and I've actually shot several bucks out of this setup. If you want to support the podcast and get some Out on a Limb equipment, make sure to go to outonalimbmfg.com and use code HNTA10 for 10% off at checkout. Once again, if you want to support the podcast, go to outonalimbmfg.com and use code HNTA10 at checkout for 10% off. Now let's get back to the podcast. You're not recording the podcast. Like, this is actually the perfect representation for people that are watching of Carol's actual attitude all the whole time.
What do you mean? My attitude's been great. I'm just here to eat and hang out.
It's just the absolute minimum.
Listen, the eating don't get good until Justin gets here.
That's true. Dude, you're working me to death.
Well, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. This is our first, I guess we did record an episode or a little bit of an episode with Justin in the wall tent, but this is the reason that we got these headphones, so we could record stuff like this. But welcome to the Rutcation slash deer camp. In this episode, we're going to talk about the 7x5, but we're also going to talk about deer camp. We can kind of do a little bit of a blended episode. But before we get into that,
A little bit of a backstory. Since we are on the Rutcation, is that what you want me to do?
Yeah.
You're trying to leave me? Okay.
Yeah.
We're here on Rutcation, and I just think it's good to give you all a little update before we, dive deep into this podcast. So, we got down here yesterday. We hunted this morning and this evening.
you did. I went to Arkansas.
Yes. Now, how's everybody's trip so far, Carol?
Pretty good. It's pretty good. I saved a wasted morning, really.
And evening.
And evening. So
I like to say Carol's just a pro at reading the weather and knowing when they're moving.
I can almost guarantee you by Sunday when you guys say, what was your best day? I'm going to say Monday.
Yeah.
That's pretty typical. Well, I'm just pumped up. You came right in time for the food in the wall tent. It's almost like you have a GPS and you just like fly your drone over and realize, hey, when's all the stuff set up? And then I'm gonna pull right up.
We literally just got done like putting the tarp in and putting rocks in the corner so the wind wouldn't blow it away. And all of a sudden we see Carol's headlights coming down. We're like, convenient.
No, perfect timing. No, Carol, I kid you not. Within the second, like our cots hit the bottom of this, and you're. And I'm like, there's no way this man showed up with perfect timing. What was your excuse? Why were you not at deer camp today?
Man, so I bought some sticks and they came in that night and I was like, dude, I'm just not ready to get down there, so I got to come up with an excuse. So I was like, man, UPS still hasn't came by. No, I bought some climbing sticks because I think, I know that somebody came in and again, and stole a lot of my hunting gear, and I waited last second to buy some climbing sticks because I've been kind of balling on a budget lately, but paid for 2-day shipping and got them a week later, so that's nice. But they finally came in at 4:30 today. So
don't you love that when you pay for $45 and there's nothing you can do about it because they just take it and then they don't do their part?
Yeah. So the crazy thing is I should have sat down and did the math because I bought them from Midway USA. I bought them from Midway USA, and they actually shipped out of Tulsa. I think I bought them like on the 2nd, and I should have said, I don't know what store or where they would have come from, but honest to God, I think a turtle.
Could have got them to your house quicker.
Yeah, a turtle literally, if it was in Tulsa and walked for 4 days straight, could have got to my house faster than paying $45 for UPS.
You paid $45 to ship them in the same town that you're at, and they didn't get there for a
Well,
week.
I didn't. You can't tell like where they're coming from. I didn't know if they were going to come from like California, Florida. There's no telling. And then it was like label created, and I was like, all
Tulsa.
right, Tulsa. And I was like, well, hold on. And then they sit there in the warehouse for 3 days.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's really nice. Well, before we get into the 7x5 story, I have no dog in the fight because I don't have any tags besides an Arkansas tag that I'm fixing to buy. Predictions for this week at deer camp. Justin and Jordan are showing up tomorrow. How many deer between you two are going to die if you had to say?
Do does count?
Absolutely.
Do they actually?
Absolutely.
Because I'm literally...
Somebody has to get the killing started.
If a truck drives by, I can see the truck. I can be like, oh, that's a Dodge. Oh, that's a Dodge Durango. That's how close I am to the road now, instead of walking the 2 miles that we have been. And so when I say I'm going to shoot anything that walks by, like doe, fawn, spotted, I don't care. Like, it'll probably get shot just because it's that easy of a drag.
So how many you think between you two? You guys got to coordinate.
Realistically, zero.
No, I truly think that we can both get a buck down. I think that I think that we'll see a good one, a really good one between us two. But I think that I truthfully think that we can each get a buck down.
See, you still have that same day enthusiasm. Like, oh, you just showed up to camp.
No,
you're
I've been here for 3 years.
enthusiastic.
I've expected and came in and had the same mentality for the last 3 years. But I truthfully think I wouldn't come down if I didn't think that there wasn't a chance.
Well, I was talking to a guy. He was from Tahlequah after the hunt this evening, and he said that in 2020 he killed a 187 and a 164
on public with his bow.
Yes.
This guy has the biggest stones. If this is true, he is a monster.
Yeah, this man's bringing in corn, and I want to hunt with him.
Well, I said, I know what you drive now. Be prepared. And he's like, I drive something different every year. And I'm like, well, we'll see. Blue Dodge Durango. I'm looking out for it now.
Buddy, I've already ran your plates. I know your first and last name, so it don't matter what you drive.
Man, if he really did kill a 187, which you said you showed you a picture.
I mean, yeah, you showed me a picture. It looked big.
What describe it? What was it like? Like a big old 10 or something? It had to have some trash.
It did. It had some like flyers off like 3 of the tines, and I mean he was holding it like this, and he had 2 kids like with him. I assumed they were camping with him or whatever. And there was like a picture at camp, and yeah, it was all there.
Oh my god!
I only looked at it for 5 seconds, so I can't like
describe it.
Yeah.
You didn't say, hey, buddy, send that to me.
Yeah. I was like, hey.
Whereabouts would you kill something like that? That's what I would have said. Yeah. Well, I'm excited for you guys. I'm just going to try to bring a good attitude all week because that's all I can contribute to this group.
That's what we need is moral support and good food.
Well, we had chili, so if that will get us through until Justin shows up, well, I think we'll be okay. We'll eat Lauren's chili tonight, and then Abby's tomorrow, and then hopefully Justin will come through with a good. Me and Carol were joking a minute ago. I think me, Justin, and Carol are all going to triple team up on his tag and then see if we can't get him a buck.
I'm not kidding.
I'm not either. I need help too. I need help.
Yeah. Well, so we talked about the recurve hunt, and we never talked about the 7x5. But when you're fixing to head to deer camp, it's hard to justify spending several hours on the phone talking about deer hunting when you're fixing to go deer hunting with your friends. When your lady is sitting there, so I'm trying to take it back to when we first found out about this buck. So Carol and I are we are on a lease in Oklahoma, and the biggest deer that we'd ever seen on this lease before. Which one do you think it was previous to this one, Carol? Do you think last year? I really don't think we had a deer over 150 on the lease. I really don't.
Our cameras quit working before 1 week into season, or it was about 2 weeks into season because after I shot my buck, they were just done.
So we really didn't know. Do you think the 6x7 that I shot in there last year was the biggest buck we had on camera? What was that?
I was trying to hit your water out of your.
Oh, what was that? He was low 140s, but I don't know if we had another buck in there that was bigger than that. I really don't think we did. We had some good.
We only had there was really no way to tell because we only had one camera. It was the the SD camera, not a cell cam, and it was on a little walkway. It wasn't on feeders or really a highway or anything like that. So
and we had good pictures on that camera. A lot of like mature deer. 10-pointers, like we had this monster 6-point that had like a blind eye come into that camera. But so this going into this season, even though there wasn't a lot of rain or anything in that place, like it seemed like the antler development I've only been there 3 years, but from my perspective, it seemed good. Like Mr. Next Year put on a really good
About how much rain does it get down there?
Dude, only like 23 inches a year. Like I looked at that place versus like Green Country, Northeast Oklahoma. The rain is nearly half down there.
yeah, we get like 48 inches a year, don't we?
It's like 20 something down. It's 26, something like that. It's damn near half the rain. And so you think about that from an antler perspective. You're like, what could that place do if there was 48 inches of rain a year? Holy frick! They could put on some racks.
And deer get most of their water from forage, correct?
From browsing, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so.
And the moisture content in that crap is nothing. I mean,
it's sand. That's what it is.
Literally is sand.
Yeah, people say, "Oh, our dirt roads suck." I'm like, you don't know what a true dirt road is until you go, to a place like our lease because around Northeast Oklahoma where we have dirt roads and we have potholes in our dirt roads, and it's like, no, if they get an inch of rain,
there is no road.
There is no road. You can't get out. You can't even leave your house.
That soil's not packed. It's like it just washes. So the rain hits it and it just washes away, and there's like no way to get to it. But this summer we had a really, really good growing season in there. I feel like despite the drought, which has been in there for a lot of years.
I feel like if we didn't have like 30 some days of 100-degree temperatures, I feel like it would have been pretty significant rainfall for that. Does that make sense? Like,
what do you mean by that?
I feel like it had more rain than it normally does, but because we had more triple-digit days than ever, I feel like that just kind of balanced it back out, where it's like a drought year still.
Yeah, well, and it's felt like down where our lease is locally, like there was rain in that area. Like there was rain to the north, to the south. Like they were on like an island of like not getting any rain.
Yeah,
because our buddy Jake is like obsessive about the weather, and like he's like, "How is it hitting everywhere but here?"
Yeah, well, that's their level. That's what they live off. That's their income. That's for their wildlife,
farming and ranching.
Yeah, farming and stuff.
Yeah, and there wasn't a whole lot of rain, but it seemed like the deer put on fantastic racks despite the rain. Like Mr. Next Year went from probably, I don't even know if the deer would have been 130 inches last year. Like he was nice, but I don't even know if he made 130. And he went from that to, you saw him several times in person.
Yeah, he's really big. He's a giant.
How many times have you seen him so far?
He's Carol's best friend.
Every single time that I've gone, every single time that I've gone down there. I mean, I hate to say, he's my deer now, so like next year he's just mine. He just knows.
Christian rebuttal.
What's up?
This is my rebuttal. Is always the thumbs up with the deer in the background with the picture. That's what I'm going to do. Is this him? No, I mean, Carol's had encounters with that deer every time you went down there. I think 3 different occasions to like.
Yeah,
hunt.
I've seen him every single time. Not every single hunt, but every single time I've gone down, I've had an encounter with him.
Yeah, and that deer is a 4.5-year-old, which we've had different opinions on him. Some people are like, yeah, he's 140. Some people are. When he was in velvet, everyone was like 170, because like he had flyers and kickers and stuff. And
seen him on the hoof, hard-horned. What do you think he is?
I think he'll go 150. I mean, I don't think he's high one. He's between my guess is 155 to 148.
Somewhere in there. I think that's a great guess. Not super wide, isn't super framey, but just the tine length is impeccable. If he could put on a little more frame and
he has average width.
His mass is
probably
his mass
15.
is not. It's not
I mean,
bad
that
at all.
ain't terrible.
No, it's not. I mean, yeah, it's probably average, but he was a deer that really impressed us this summer. To be honest, he was on the hit list until you shot paddles. He was, because Carol.
Oh, really?
Carol almost shot him.
Yeah, I was drawing back on him, but I decided not to take the shot.
Shut the frig up. That is not what happened. Oh, that's after.
No.
Oh, no. That was the first. You didn't take the shot
yeah.
because he was far away.
Well, no, I had him at 30 yards too. I just didn't want to swing around the tree. So I had a limb in front of me, and my saddle, I was directly behind me, and I had a limb sticking straight down. If I wanted to get off the platform and hang off the tree, I could have shot him, but I didn't want to do that.
But talk about the sequence of events, though, because he came in first. You were going to shoot him, couldn't get a shot at him, and then the other deer came in.
No. I saw him twice. He came in twice before paddles came in.
2 different times?
Yeah, no, he came in twice. Yeah, that's what I was telling you. Is he came to the feeder, and he was at like 40, 41 yards, and I had doe all around me. And I was like, well, I can't really get drawn back to shoot him. And finally, I got drawn back to shoot him, and that's when he started leaving the feeder. I'm like, no, I'm not taking this shot. So he left. I remember texting you, and then he came back around like 15, 20 minutes later and came down 30 yards from me. And he was in front of that limb, and I was like, okay, this is it. He's broadside, 30 yards. This is going to be it. I was like, take one more step. And I was like, I can hang off the platform and shoot this deer, but I don't like that shot. So
I didn't know you passed him twice.
yeah, I passed him twice that first morning.
And then you shot paddles, and
Yeah.
then he came in
And then he came,
and taunted you.
and then he took that same path that he came back in on the second time, but just kept walking.
So Carol shot a really good 8-pointer in there, and then Mr. Next Year decided to walk in at like 30. And
Yeah.
basically
The
just say,
same path as the second time, the exact same path.
yeah. So he very well could be the biggest deer he probably is the biggest deer that we have on there right now. Score wise, even including the 7x5, I do think he's bigger than that deer score wise.
Yeah.
So we had those deer coming in the summer. There was a real nice wide, I guess he's a 9 or a 10, the one that you really like.
Yeah, he's technically a 10, but
He's a mainframe 8-point.
yeah.
Just a really wide pencil horned 8-point. Very impressive.
Is that the one with like a 2-inch
Yeah, like
tine that makes him a 9?
yeah, and he's got like a kicker on the 10. Or on his 2. I don't even know if that would score. But
No, I don't think so. But yeah, I know what you're talking about. He's got 2 on, or he's got 1 on both 2s, but I don't think either of them score.
yeah, he's a very framey, impressive deer that we were going to shoot, and I think he was mature this summer. And then I'm trying to get them all out on the table just to put context of what we were hunting for on this place.
Bro, tell him about the one you're going to let me shoot.
Oh, the refrigerator.
Yeah.
Well, Carol, Pat, that's a USB-C, by the way. That's not a.
Son of a gun.
I have one of those in my car. Though.
Yeah,
I'll
I
get
do
for
too.
you
I
later.
don't know. I don't know where it is.
No, the refrigerator is a buck that is like, he's kind of laid off a little bit recently, but he was like our number one like resident of our buck hotel. He is like a 7. I have had this deer on camera since 2021, and he was mature in 2021. And he was mature in 2022, and now he's like mega mature in 2023. He has basically a 6-point, but he has what you saw him in person, a 3-inch G3 and a 1-inch G3.
Yeah, they're not. They're horrible.
Crab claw.
Yeah, they're horrible G3s, but he's still a good deer. I mean, I think he'll still be in the 120s with horrible G3s.
But why did he get the name refrigerator? You said, okay, I'm gonna look at him in person and I'll tell you what I think about him, or if I'm gonna shoot him when I see him in person. Well, you did see him in person in October. What did you think about him?
He came out very aggressive. I remember him doing a ground scrape the very first time I saw him, and he was grunting, and he came in and ran every deer off. I actually got the footage of, I think, him running every deer off that feeder, and he's got these little pencil legs and a big old body where I just remember laughing of like, dude, I don't even see how those legs hold that thing up.
Looks about like a corgi.
Yeah, literally. Literally.
But you didn't shoot him. You didn't want to shoot him.
No, we had, there's a other deer in there that are mature that I was looking to get a little more score out of that are mature as well. But
Man, what a problem to have.
It's at that point, though, where I truthfully think that if I see a refrigerator, I will shoot him next time.
Blast him. We also had a deer that was an 11 point. And I do this. I think I've noticed over the last couple years, like, naturally, I think I overestimate deer by about 5 inches when I see him in a trail cam photo. So I try to -5 now. And so I originally thought this deer was like a low 140s. I think he's not. I think he's like a mid-30s type of deer, the 11.
Yeah.
But that buck was in there. He was in there very frequently.
Yeah, I'm looking at him right now. He's in there.
He's in there right now.
He's in there
too.
every day now.
Yeah, now he is. Now he's taunting us. But that was a super cool buck in there. And then middle of the summer, it was like early August, we got the first picture of the 7x5. And I remember the first time I got a picture, we were like, holy crap, what is that? Especially with velvet, he looked thick in there. And we got, what, did we get 3 pictures of him one time? He came in.
I think we got 2 pictures. One was blurry and one was crystal clear. And I was like, okay, this is going to be the biggest deer that we have.
Yeah. And we originally, when we saw him in velvet, we're like, okay. You were saying, no, you think he's still going to grow a little bit more.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
I thought so.
And it was early August, so I'm sure he didn't grow much more. But we originally were like, well, I don't know. That's definitely a 150 plus, but I'd like to see this deer again. And I don't think we saw him again until October.
Yeah, last week of October.
So
was October 24th, I think, is when you came in.
You went in there and hunted. We had a really, really good October for the cold fronts, but you went in there and hunted for like an entire week, off and on, not every day. One evening when you were leaving the place, you said you almost hit him with your car.
Yeah, he ran right out in front of my truck. Not even as the crow flies, probably not even a mile away from where we sit. Big buck down.
And so he was on top of the road up there by the bean fields, and did you lock your breakups?
Yeah, I shouldn't have, but I did.
And
You're welcome.
Thank you. When you saw him up on the top of the field, though, like, and almost hit him with your truck, what did you think he was? Because this is the first time we ever saw him out of velvet. Never got him on trail camera out of velvet until late October. What did you think of him when you saw him when you almost hit him with your truck?
I was on the phone with my cousin that was actually on public, and we were talking, and he was telling me a story, and just an unfortunate event for him while he was out here on public land. And that deer ran out in front of me, and I just remember slamming on the brakes. And I mean, it's sandy road, so I'm not going too fast, but I had to lock the brakes up. And I was just a 10, 15 foot from hitting him. He was right in front of me.
Did he stop when you tried?
Right in the middle of the road. Right, stopped right there in the middle of the road, and he turned and looked at me, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, 160, no doubt, 160 inches. And I just remember saying, because I got like a good look at him, but you know, like how something happened, like after you shoot a deer and you're like, let's go. What just happened? Mm-hmm. Where did I hit him? Where did he run?
How big was that? I don't know. Which one was that?
I don't know what just happened. I don't know anything, because I'm the worst about that. Is after I shoot a deer, like, where'd he run? I'm like, I don't know. Where'd you hit him? I don't know.
I heard it hit him.
I blacked out. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's the same thing that happened with that deer of like, well, what'd you see? I don't remember. Mm-hmm. But I do know where I was like, giant, he's a big one. Mm-hmm. And I just remember saying, all right, he's anywhere from 12 to 14 points. That's what I told myself. I was like, all right, he's anywhere from 12 to 14 points. So I just remember making a few phone calls. I called you right off the bat. I was like, dude, you ain't going to freaking believe it. I saw him. Mm-hmm. Like, it's got to be the same deer that we had on trail camera. It's got to be. He's a giant.
But we hadn't had him on trail camera for 2 months.
Well, it didn't come to me right then and there, but I knew, like, after thinking about it, I'm like, I know what deer it is. And then the second time when we got him on trail camera, like around October 24th, I was like, hey, I'm pretty sure that's a deer. And you're like, it is the same deer that we had back in August.
And you, at that point, when you saw him again, we were like hard horned. We were like, Dad, that's the deer I almost hit.
Yeah. After seeing him in person, I was like, yeah, that's him.
Yeah. So I don't know what happened in the broader, like, ecosystem in there that brought him off of where he was living. I think he was living in one of those big, deep cuts in between by those fields up there, where we're eating the beans and stuff.
To the northwest of us, probably about a mile.
Yeah, I think he was living up in there, and then it's just, I don't know what drove him off, whether it was...
I think he just went exploring and found food.
Yeah, but it was weird because when he showed up, we got the pictures of him, and like you said, the 24th, I think, was like the first time. And he was in there like one day. And when he was in there one day, though, he went from the north to the middle portion of the property to the south.
By the time we went to go hunt him out of that week, he was in there like 3 days. Like he had started to move in. We're like, all right, he's consistent. Like he's in there now.
Daylighting.
He's in there and he's daylighting.
And I went in to hunt him on like last year when I shot the 6x7, I kind of hunted it on like an odd wind. It's not a terrible wind, but it's not the best wind, like a southeast. And it gives the bucks a little bit of the wind when they're coming out, but that can be a double-edged sword. They can just as easily wind you as not. So I went and hunted it on that wind, like it was 3 days after he daylighted or something. I was like, because I remember you and I were talking about it, and we're like, well, this isn't the best wind, but like he's in there, and he hadn't been in there for 2 months.
Yeah,
you might as well try him. I went in there and tried him for one day. Didn't even see. I saw one buck, like a little bitty basket rack 7-pointer. Didn't see him at all. He never came in, which kind of sucked. But it was hot during then too. And then when did he disappeared again? And then when did we see him again? Was it like 2 days before we hunted him again? Like early.
Well, we saw him. That would have been when you went in to hunt him. Was Monday,
right? Yeah.
And then I'm trying to think. Yeah, that next weekend.
That next Monday is when I shot him. So he disappeared for 3 or 4 days.
He would have been in there because you hunted him Monday. Because I was supposed to be hunting in there Saturday and Sunday,
but you had left because of the wind.
Yeah, the wind,
and it got hot. It got really hot.
So, because I remember him showing up on Sunday, and I was like, dude, just who cares about the wind? Just he's been in there. He's only been in there one time. Just go hunt him. You know,
when you have no idea where he's coming from.
You can play all the wind. You can play the wind all you want, but as long as it's not blowing out the feeder, it doesn't matter because that whole thing is bedding. You can say, "Oh, I think the deer are going to come from this way. I think they're going to be bedding this way," and it's like, no, I've seen Mr. Next Year come from a different way every single time I've hunted in there. He's came from the east. He's come from the north. He's come from the south. He's come from the west.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's just
not much you can do on that front.
As long as the wind's just not blowing directly at the feeder, go hunt it. And you didn't see anything, and then he showed back up on camera.
What was it, like Friday?
2 days, I think. Before we hunted, he was in there like 2 days before, and then the day before he was like not just daylighting, but at like 9:30 a.m. or something like that. It was just like, okay.
So when I was on that recurve hunt, I remember I was sleeping in my truck, and it was piss pouring, like all Friday it was piss pouring, like all Saturday it was piss pouring, and I was just like, you were gonna go in there and hunt, but it was raining like all the time, and this is not an easy spot to access when it's raining. So you ended up showing up on, I think it was Saturday night or Sunday.
Yeah, because the wide one had been in there for like 4 days in a row. So I was like, dude, I got to get down there. I showed up on Saturday night.
Mm-hmm. So we had we went down there. He had been in there since like October 24th. He had been in there a few different times sporadically. Like he had hit it for 3 days and then not hit it and then hit it for 3 days. But we had that really, really good cold front coming in. Like it had been raining. The rain was going to stop. It was going to be 28 degrees.
Yeah,
I think.
It was miserable. It was 20-mile-an-hour winds and low 30s, high 20s.
Yeah, great wind out of the north. So you and I went in there, and was it the best idea to try to hunt it with 2 people? No, probably not. But we were like, hey, he's in there. Let's try to hunt it. You go hunt the wide one down here to the south, and I'll go hunt this one to the north. And so we get in there, and you and I got in with plenty of time. I remember it was an absolute full moon that morning, and you could see, dude, at like 6 a.m. it was like fully lit outside. It was like, I could see, but you can't shoot. And so we got out. I got packed up. Of course, I had to use the bathroom before I went in there. And I got fully packed up. And when I say I got packed up, dude, that's an understatement. I remember it, my camera arm, my tripod, my fluid head, a seat I threw over my shoulder, my saddle, my sticks, my platform, my GoPro, my bow. I had stuff hanging off my neck.
Why did you bring a ground setup and your...
Because the trees in there are a bunch of hackberries, and they're POS trees. Like, you get in them, and they go 6 foot up, and then they go every direction. And there's not a trunk. Like, they lose their trunk at like 6 foot, and they just go every direction.
I just remember you saying, like, there's got to be a tree. There's got to be a tree. And I'm like, dude, I have been in there 5 times. There is not. There is not one that you're not going to be able to go in there and make one work right then and there without being super loud. Because I was like, they're not even trees. Like
They're shrubs.
they're like shrubs almost, to where it's like, dude, you can't.
They should be called hackberry bushes, not trees.
If
They're
you want
20
to go
foot
in there,
tall.
if you want to spend a whole day making a tree work, you could, but you're not going to go in there an hour before and make something work off the ground. It's not going to happen.
No. Well, and so I get right off the road, and it kind of how this place lays up is it basically Y's. Like you go left, I can go right, and one walks through like kind of the middle of the property, and one goes to the west. And I take off before you. I remember I put all my stuff on, and it's all hanging off me, and I open the door, and Carol is in the passenger seat, like with his eyes closed, asleep. And I was like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, I don't got to go for 10 minutes. He's like completely, I mean, like
Dude, it was so cold. I was like, there is no point in me going up there and sitting in that stand for 45 minutes.
Yes.
It was so cold. I'm like, it is just miserably cold. Like, if you pull your hands out of your pockets for 10 seconds, you're like, all right, my hands are too cold to shoot. I've ruined this whole hunt.
Yeah. Well, I opened the door like that, and so I've gotten to this way too, and I know Carol is this way too, but like a constant like trail cam refresher, I do that now too. And Carol is like a trail cam refresher, and he refreshes and he
Just
goes,
like he's playing slots.
yeah. He refreshes and he goes, ooh, and I'm like, what? And he's like, he's in there right now, like, and not where I'm going, where he's going. And he's like, all right, what do we do? Do you want to go in with me? And I'm like, he's already there. Like, he's already hitting that. My thoughts were like, he's already to the south. When you walk in, there's no way you're getting in clean. And if you bump him off, he's going to go to the north. I was like, I'm just going to do what I said I was going to do. I'm going to go to the north.
Yeah.
But I was not confident in that. I'm like, he's probably going to walk off and you're going to get in the stand and he's going to be like, whoa.
But the crazy thing about that spot is, dude, they can be 30 yards away, and if you're quiet, that stand is like really creaky, like when you're trying to go up. But I keep the light off. If I'm super quiet, it's a heavy north wind.
20 mile an
Dude,
hour.
yeah. If they're 50 yards in front of me, I can just sit there and go, hey, with a 50 or 20 mile an hour wind. They wouldn't hear you.
No, you can't hear yourself talk.
Yeah,
Did they hear the car alarm or?
Hey, we're not there yet.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah. So I was like, me and Carol strategized for like 2 minutes, and at this point, it's like 6:30. You can shoot at what, 7:15? I
Yeah.
think it's like 6:30
Before daylight savings.
before that. Yeah, before daylight savings. So it's like 6:30, and I'm walking in. I'm like, screw it. I'm still going to the north, and it is a trek. I didn't realize how far of a trek it is. You get past the fields, and it's basically just sand.
Dude, yeah, it's like, I don't know if anybody's listening has ever walked on a beach and you're just like, screw this.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you walk on a beach, it's like walking half a mile just in
Through
sand.
sand.
Yeah, and you're just like, this. Not only it's not the distance, but like what you're walking in just sucks.
Yeah. Well, I'm walking through the sand, and it pissed me off because I got 80 yards in there, and I see like a gray figure walking in front of me. I'm like, oh, please, no, don't do this. And I hear, ah! And I'm like, because I'm not 250 yards away from where Carol's going. I'm like, all right. And then I keep walking, and I got my little chair hung around, that little chair right there. I have that chair hung around my neck, and if you don't hold it with both hands closed, it goes clink, clink, clink,
Yeah.
clink, clink. And it's clinking, and I got both my hands on it and my bow, so I'm like this, walking, and my saddle and everything. And my bag probably weighs every bit of 50 pounds because of all the stuff. And I'm walking like this, and I don't get 100 yards in there, and I hear, and I counted it. I stopped, and I go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the first thing I was thinking, I was like, dude, Carol's back there. Like, trying to find the keys. He hit the emergency. I don't know. Or maybe you opened the door. I'll let you explain it. But the car alarm started going off immediately.
Dude, I was in a panic. So I hit the unlock button, and the door was still like on the driver's side was still kind of like cracked. I think the car was locked, but the door was still kind of cracked. So like it was maybe openable, but the car registered as is locked. But anyways, I hit the unlock button, and as I'm hitting the unlock button, the car alarm goes up. I could have hit the alarm button, or the car could have thought it was locked, and I pulled that door, and I was like, I don't know what's going on. So I'm hitting the unlock buttons, like, okay, I have no idea what to do. So I'm grabbing my flashlight. I'm turning it on. I'm like, oh, alarm. I finally got it off. And I'm like, all right. It wasn't as long as it could have been.
5 times.
But there's no way that not every deer on this property heard it. I was like, the only thing that we have going for me is it is 20-mile-an-hour north wind, and we're all going to the north. I'm like, maybe not even 100 yards. They probably couldn't even have heard it at 100 yards away.
I did.
Away to the north.
What was going through your head at that moment?
At this moment, I just got blown out, and 15 seconds later, that horn goes off, and I feel a bead of sweat go down my face, and it's 30 degrees, and I'm like, like I'm just breathing hard on my nose, and I'm like, I'm starting to get upset at this point. Not at Carol or anything, but just the series of events that have happened, and I'm trucking in there. I was like, I'm not even hunting this morning. I'm a freaking pack mule, and I just started thinking about getting all my stuff out. And then I get to the top of the field, and we have this camera. We have this Exodus camera, and it's running. It has no solar. It's just running on video mode. And the deer just come right through that spot. And I kind of walked up to the right of that spot. I didn't take one step into this sand. It's basically it's a field, but it's just a sandy field, like shrub, grasses, and hackberries. And I see, at this point, it's gray light. And not gray light because we're in there too late, gray light because there's a full moon. And I see a deer like 30 yards moving its head, looking at me, and just goes, whew. And it doesn't blow at me. It just runs off. And I'm like, immediately I'm thinking, that's a buck. Like, that was a buck. Because does will always let you know. Mm-hmm. They can't stand it. They have to. But that deer just kind of shuffled off. And I was like, well, I couldn't really tell what he was. He probably couldn't tell what I was. He might have thought I was a deer just as much as I thought he was a deer. And so I was just like, well, I'm already in here, so I might as well keep going to the north. And that made me even more pissed off because I've spooked 2 deer. The car alarms already went off. I'm sweating. And I walk up there, and I finally get to where the spot is, and there's this big ravine. It's not even a creek. It's like a just a ravine.
Trench.
Yeah, it's like a trench that these deer use, and there's big, tall native grass in there. It's like 11 foot tall. And I get up there, and I get to a place where I think the wind is good, and you would kind of show me where you sat on the ground a couple times in there. And I was like, I looked up in the hackberry tree, and I saw all the limbs go in every direction. And I was like, that's not going to work. So I immediately set my bag down, and I was like, and I got like sweat all over my face. And it's 30 degrees and the wind's hitting me in the face because I'm cold and hot at the same time. I'm like, well, the ground's going to have to work. So I just positioned myself up against that hackberry tree behind it, put my camera tripod in front of me facing where the feeder is and where that trench is. I really think that'd be a good spot even without the feeder. Because of that trench and all the bedding and stuff right there. But I sat down right there, and I laid all my stuff out around me. It looks like a graveyard of parts. Like I got my saddle laid over there, my bag, all my stuff is laid in a U around me. And I get my bow, and I set everything up, and I got my camera on and all that stuff. And I'm sitting there, and it's like 7:08. And I'm like, oh, okay, try not to sweat anymore. And I hear that goes off. And I kid you not 30 seconds later, I look over and I see this gray figure walking in. And you know when you see one, you can tell it's a big body. I was like, and I was like, that's the biggest deer I've ever seen. Like I knew it was him. I was like, okay, just chill. And so I had my binos, and like my bino case is kind of squeezed in on my binos, so when I pull them out, they kind of like
a little bit.
Mine
are you have Vortex?
No, I have loopholes. I have blue Vortex as well, but these were loopholes, and I just like kind of shimmied them out of there. I would wait till the wind like gusted hard, and I would shimmy a little more, and I pulled up my binos, and I saw him, and I just heard ding, 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 ding. His rack, as he was moving, was hitting each side of the legs, and I was like, "Whew, that's a big deer." And I was looking at him, and I was like, "That's him." And then I set my binos down. I was like, "Well, let me check the cell cam," because it was getting light rapidly, but I'm like, hey, it's fixing to be legal shooting light here in a few minutes. I'm not going to wait till 30 minutes after shooting like to shoot this deer. So I just need confirmation that's him. So I take out my Scout Tech app and I scroll on it. And the first picture I see is just him there. I'm like, oh, that's him. So I set my phone down and I wait a few minutes. And when I could see, I drew back and I could see, and I had my pin illuminated and it was on him good. Or actually right before I drew back, I was like, I don't know how far he is because I haven't ranged it. I was like, I think he's 20. I had my sight on 25 because that's what I shoot in my backyard most days. So I was like, it's probably like 22. So I dialed that down a little bit. He ended up being at 17. And
17 yards on the ground?
On the ground, yeah. Yeah. I was on the... Thank God it was low light, or it happened quick, because afterwards, first thing Carol said when he walked up to me, he's like, yeah, that wouldn't have worked in the light.
Oh my God.
Dude, he sat like 3-4 yards away from where I did, and I had doe walk from me to you by me. I mean, they just like, the deer there are so like, they're unpressured.
Mm-hmm.
They just have no idea. They have no idea.
They'll let you get away with stuff that you can't get away with other
like,
places.
dude, when I drew back on Mr. Next Year, I had doe from me to you looking at me as I drew back. As I drew back, I'm like, well, this is all I'm going to get. This is all I'm going to get. So they just looked at me, licked their lips, put their head down, and were like, huh.
They're like, well, he's not aimed at me.
Yeah. they kind of looked and were like, huh. And then turned around and walked off. I'm like, there's nowhere else in the world that would work.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
how does that work? How does that work at all?
It's a testament to how good of a place it is. But I drew back on this deer, and I got my pin on him, and I went low, and I just literally was editing a video about shot placement. I was like, you know what? I said, this is a 200-plus pound deer. I'm confident in my setup. I was like, I am jacking this mother trucker right in the shoulder. Like, that was my thoughts. Is like, I'm putting it not behind. I'm like, I'm putting it up his leg. Like, and I don't care if I hit the shoulder. The shot broke, and all I see is sparks. And I was like, what the frick? I was like, no! I've been using the new Exodus Rival cell camera for the last couple months, and I have found a beautiful mainframe 8-point with tons of stickers to go after this fall.
Ooh.
One thing I do appreciate about Exodus trail cameras is all of the cameras share the same data plan, so you only pay for what you need. A lot of cell cam companies charge you for HD pictures. I've seen prices of $5 for 50 HD pics. Exodus is going to give you unlimited HD pictures right to your phone, which is awesome when you're sitting there in the middle of the summer and it's 100 degrees and you just want to binge a bunch of trail cam photos.
If you're looking for a solid cell camera with great performance and a 5-year no BS warranty, go check them out. So as we all know, hunting gear is something people can make way too complicated. Arrows can be the exact same way. Instead of going down all those rabbit holes trying to sift through the endless information that's online and you're not really sure if it's right or wrong, Exodus makes it simple to get the right arrow for your exact setup.
So go online to the Exodus Arrow Builder. It takes less than a minute. You're going to enter your draw weight, your draw length, and how heavy of a point you're shooting. And it's going to be that simple. Let the guys at Exodus take care of the rest.
So if you're interested in Exodus Rival cell cameras or a new set of their MMT arrows, just go to exodusoutdoorgear.com and use code HA15 for 15% off anything on the website.
Once again, that is exodusoutdoorgear.com. Use code HA15 at checkout for 15% off. Now let's get back to the podcast. Because even 30 minutes after it's light, like it's still, you know how your eyes are trying to adjust when it's light, like as it gets lighter and lighter and lighter, they're still trying to adjust. Mm-hmm. It was like that situation. I shot and it sparks and I'm like, oh, frick. Because I'm not shooting Luminox or anything. And even in broad daylight, it's hard for me to see my arrow. So I shot, and I'm like immediately scrambling to get another arrow. And I look, and he's like 7 yards away, and he's like...
He's 7 yards away from you?
No, he runs 7 yards from where I hit him. And he like is stumbling, rumbling, falls over. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And like, it's done. It's done. I pulled out another arrow and shot him again.
Yeah.
Just for good measure.
Didn't hurt?
Well, I was like, this is the biggest buck I've ever shot. So I was like, he's definitely not getting away if I shoot him twice. So I shot him again and then proceeded to walk up to him. And when I walked up to him, his rack was in that grass.
So before that, what did you think this deer was like from did we already cover that? Like what you thought this deer was score wise?
So we thought originally when we had the pictures, and even through October, the second time we got the round of pictures of him, we were like, man, he's probably like 160. Like he's probably like 160. And then the day before I shot him, we got a really good picture of him from the front. And I was like, okay. Like, he had the same presence, but he looked like you just took him and made him a little shorter. I was like, okay, he's probably like, realistically, I was like, all right, he's 150s.
Yeah.
Like somewhere in the 150s.
My guess was like 152 after I saw that picture.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, maybe mid 150s, maybe.
Yeah. Mike and Mike, who we lease from, are like, yeah, that deer on a good year without the drought is 160s. Like that's
just crazy.
Yeah, which he ain't gonna ever be 160s.
Yeah.
Unless I find a shed. But no, I thought he was probably like 150s, and my biggest deer is like officially scored was like 142 and 7/8 or something like that. So I was like, this is definitely the biggest deer that I've shot by like actually a really good upgrade. And shot him, he went down. I walked up to him, his head is in that grass, and immediately I'm like, oh my, because there was a doe that came in with him. And you know how it is when you shoot one. I walked up and I was like, I shot the doe. I was like, I shot the freaking doe. And then I looked at the body, I was like, that's the biggest doe I've ever seen in my entire life.
By 120 pounds.
This is a 220-pound doe.
Yeah.
And because his head was literally like you took the grass and like laid it over, and I was like, oh no. I was like looking at him, and then I saw the beam swoop up, and I was like, oh yes. And I reached in and I grabbed and I pulled him, and his head spun around. And I was like, ooh, that is a beast. And then I proceeded to call everybody and FaceTime everybody.
Did you call Carol?
I texted Carol.
Dude, I'm a little more in the woods, so it's a little darker for me. And I heard the shot because, like I said, we have heavy wind. I heard the shot and I heard the ding.
We're probably only 200 yards apart.
Okay. That's what I was about to ask.
And I was like, oh my God, he just fell out of his tree. So I literally am in the middle of texting him. I don't remember what I said. I sent the message, and as I sent it, you sent, as soon as that message sent, I received one from you, and you said, I got him.
Oh, I thought I said he's dead or something.
Or yeah,
like that.
Pretty on the lines of you got him pretty much. And I was like, oh my God, dude. I was getting my stuff because like he just fell out the freaking tree. I was like, it's dark.
It's freaking
I just heard it. Yeah.
To be fair, there wasn't a big enough tree to fall out of.
That's true.
That very far.
That's true. I was nervous though. I was like, oh my gosh, this can't be happening. Because I was like, dude, it's way too dark for me to shoot. Because I'm in the woods at this point. But he's out in the open field.
I'm literally in an open field.
Yeah, he's in an open field.
So the sparks, I still don't understand, because from the photo you sent me, it looked like you hit him center mass in the shoulder, but yet there's sparks. Was that sparks from like you seeing through the deer because of the whole, like? See that's
it could have gone over under.
Well, what it is when I hit him, the arrow goes through him. The sparks that you're seeing are the leg behind him ricocheting off. It looks like it's in him.
Well, that was just perfect timing then,
dude. Because I watched it
and great
again.
Placement.
I watched it again, and I was like, "Oh, dude, I bounced off the leg and hit him." That's what I thought. Like, but then I was like, "Dude, there's no way I shot through a 220-pound deer."
Well, because
through
the
his
arrow
shoulder
goes in, and then all of a sudden there's sparks, and like the spark is literally in the.
It looks like a luminoc.
Hole. Yeah,
it looks like a luminoc going through the deer, and I was like, "Oh, I bounced off," but just the angles would not have worked. Like, even if it hit this leg, it would have had to have been a foot to the. You can see in the video, like it would have had to been a foot to the right, and the ricochet. No, it just wouldn't have worked. But I'll show you guys the video. But there was a spark in the video, and it was crazy because my arrow was laying 2 feet from where he was standing, just laying right there. But yeah, I went up and found him, and I FaceTimed Jake Ayers, and he was like, the first thing he texted me back was, "Bruh, I'm hunting." And I was like, well, I killed him. He's like, oh, okay. And we had a conversation about that. I FaceTimed you, showed you. Could you see him real well when I was showing you?
No, every single time.
My service is pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, my service is pretty bad. But no, I sat there for like 15 minutes admiring him before I went and got the camera because I was like, I want to sit here and look at this deer. Which he had broke off a little bit of his eye guard, probably 1.5 inches fighting. I'm very confident later on in the year he'd have broke off several other points. I probably. But no, I sat there and admired him, and he was everything I hoped for, which here he is. I don't know if people can see me, so I'll pass it around. I'll pass it around to you, and then
Show and
to
tell.
Jake. Yeah, show and tell. We did that on the last podcast too. He is
He does have really good mass at his base.
He carries the mass really, really well. He didn't maybe have a mass measurement under 4. I think he has 39 inches of mass. He's only 16.5 inches wide, 22-inch beam on one side, 21 on the other. What really gets him from a scoring perspective is the length of the tines.
It's just crazy how heavy. So, what I don't understand is, have you ever heard of when, like, in drought years, it tends to make their tines and, like, antlers more fragile?
Mm-mm.
Like, where they get busted more easy and all that stuff?
That makes sense, though. The coarseness of it, the density.
Well, yeah, if this is in a drought, like, it doesn't feel like this took place in this deer. Like,
No.
I mean, it might, like, the drought might have dwarfed the tines a bit, but other than that, like, I don't see any of that stuff that they talk about, like it being super fragile.
Well, and the main difference between that deer and any other deer that I've shot is the weight. When
Dude,
you hold,
he is very, very heavy. When
you hold it, it just feels denser. Because he's like 5.5 around the bases, and then he's like 4 something. I think he's 39 inches of mass, which you always hear people say, if a deer has 40 inches of mass, that's like world-class mass. Which he has. And he's got 2 extras here.
I do like that little turkey foot on the end. That's my favorite part.
Yeah, it's really unique. Which we I taped him and Carol added it, and I remember Carol added it.
Carol and numbers, you trusted that man?
Goodness. I was hoping he put a few more on there. But Carol added
What was
it up.
the p-value?
0.06, unfortunately. So
Carol added it up, and he added all the points before he added all the 8s up together, and it was like 142. And I was like, dude, there's no way that I'm getting 7 inches of 8s. Like, you just don't. But there was several measurements that were like 7/8, so it was almost a full inch. And my goal this year was to shoot a 150. This scored 150 and 0.8s. And with the eye guard not broken, literally identical to what everyone said that they thought he would score, like 151. Which you thought, what, 152?
yeah, after seeing the daylight photo of him the day before, I was like, he's not 160, but
Yeah. You thought 148?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I thought there.
Well, because the pictures didn't do justice. Like what's his face did good taking them, but you just with any other deer, like, pictures don't do justice.
well, it's also tough to tell because he's a 240
Yeah,
pound
that
deer.
is true.
So
Well, you see a lot of folks do those photos nowadays where they hold one side and they get the photographer to take it basically touching the rack on that side, and you can't really tell how big. They'll make a 130-inch deer look 180.
That's what I need.
You're right. But when I had Harrison take the photos, I'm taking them like this next to my body, or I'm taking them like this right here, and he's 15, 20 feet away from me with his lens, and so it makes the deer look like what the deer is, not me holding it like that, and the
That
camera's
is true.
right
You
there.
are what, like 272?
280.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, 6'6", 280. But no, I think he's a lot more impressive in person than he looks in a photo, which it doesn't freaking matter. But I think he's got just the way that his beams swoop and stuff, he just got presence that way.
You hit the goal, 150 on private.
That was the goal. I'm very, very happy with him, especially this character right here is awesome. Which it was interesting. I took him out to show Mike, and Mike was like, "Oh, he's a lot bigger than he looked in that picture."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Yeah, I know." Like the picture that Jake sent to them, like I'm holding him on a tailgate like this. It's like he didn't look that big in the picture. But Mike was like, "Yeah, I kid you not." He's like, "This buck is." He said, "All of our bucks, the mature ones, like that top end is right around 150." He's like, "I guarantee you a buck like that in a non-drought year is 160s."
You pulled the jaw, didn't you?
Yeah. And I had that recurve buck. They pulled the jaw on it, and I had the other side of it, and it was 4.5. And I put this jaw next to it, and it was at least minimum 5.5. I ordered the deer age kit for the cementum annuli aging, so at least 5.5. After you get 5.5, it's really hard to tell. But we dragging him out, he felt 5.5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he was no less than 5.5.
How many tokens you got so far?
Private doesn't count.
Oh,
Dude, Christian, after we shot him, Christian's like, well, we don't. It's really not that far. I'm like, no, we're driving the truck up here. He's like, well, I don't know. I was like, no, I know we can. He's like, well, I'm gonna get stuck. I'd rather get stuck than drive. So,
well, we tried to pick him up, and dude, his chest was like a 55-gallon drum barrel. So like getting your arms around it was hard, but the back end was obviously smaller. We drug him like 10 yards, and we're like, all right, this is not gonna work. Like he was, and we gutted him too. I weighed him gutted, and he was 177 or something gutted, 176. So do the math, 2 something, low 2s.
Yeah, 210, between 210 to 220 probably.
Right, and I thought he was a bigger body than that one I shot last year, but that one I shot last year live weight was 230. So they said the biggest one they've seen live weight.
Was he a bigger body than the 6x7?
No, I thought he weighed more, but no, he didn't. The 6x7 probably outweighed him by 20.
That's crazy. That is insane.
Which the buck that Carroll shot in there was probably every bit of 220.
Yeah, he was big. Tanner, I remember Tanner was like, dude, this is probably the biggest body deer I've ever seen. Because I was like, yeah, and I can't.
You talking about paddles?
No,
the
shot in there the year before.
One I shot. Dude, I don't even know how many points that thing was. I think it was like a 12.
I think it also had 13 points.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, I remember I tried to load him. I was like, dude, I can't get even a leg almost off the ground. And I was like, even if I gut him, I still can't do it. So I just remember calling Tanner. I'm like, hey, I'm not asking.
I need help.
Yeah, I'm like.
And Tanner had just broken his back in a tree stand accident. So I was like, wrong guy. wrong guy to call. But he called him anyways.
Just tell him lift with his legs. That's all you gotta do.
Yeah, so I think this is probably the third biggest bodied buck in there that we shot, and it was once they get over 5.5 down there, you're just like huge. Body's huge. I don't know. They're just
huge.
Refrigerator might be bigger.
Yeah, that deer might be 230, 240.
Live weight.
Yeah, I think that when I saw him and I was like, man, and he's the most beautiful colored deer I've ever seen.
Dark chocolate.
Yeah, I'm talking like gray
eyes,
dark chocolate, and I'm like, man, I just want to shoot him just because of the color.
Better shoot him before rifle season.
Man, he hadn't been in there in a while.
Probably got shot.
He probably did.
Yeah, he probably
I
did.
I think our wide one got shot. Wide one was there, heard a gunshot that night when I got there. Heard 2 that night that I got there. He was there every day. Heard 2 gunshots, and he hadn't been back since.
Well, that's cute. During muzzleloader season, I heard 4 within 15 minutes.
Yeah.
That's just regular business for you.
Yeah, it is. You usually hear rifle season, dude. It's
You're like, hey, not bad.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah, our big, unfortunately, I think the wide one's done, and refrigerator might be gone too.
I mean, refrigerator's lucky I didn't see him when I had my recurve, because I don't know if I could penetrate him with my recurve, dude.
Oh, dang.
I think the recurve, he might bounce off and he might just laugh at that crap. He's a beast of a body.
Yeah, the 11-pointer is the most consistent deer that we've had in there. He's been in there every day for like 2 weeks now. a week and a half, somewhere in there.
That was what was cool about this buck is we got this buck killed, and this was the least consistent deer out of any deer we had in there. And we got him on the right cold front in the end of October, and he was all over it, which was awesome because if you would have asked me in the beginning of the season, like, are you guys going to kill that deer? I was like, probably not, but I was hoping so. I hope so. Like, him and the wide one are the least consistent bucks we've had in there, but we got it done on that one. So, pretty fun.
You're officially tagged out in Oklahoma, so what's next?
I went to Arkansas today.
How far over the line are you?
Oh, dude, not
A
100
magician
yards.
never reveals his secrets.
I don't care. If I kill one in Arkansas, you're going to hear it from here. I'm going to be like that guy.
How long of a drive is it?
Oh, it's an hour.
Oh, really? No,
Yeah.
wow.
It's the same hour for us.
Yeah.
Dude, but the
drive
thing
for us.
is, when it says 62 miles, you're like, that's a long ways. Like,
Yeah.
it's not bad. It's all highway, but I'm like a mile over the border. And the place that I went today, it is so thick. Like, but I got out to take a waz, and in the puddle that I'm taking a waz in, I look down and there's like a buck track the size of my hand, and I'm like, that'll work. And I'm just peeing, and I'm like, because my thoughts are like, yes, it's Arkansas, but the deer just don't get smaller just because you drove over the border. Like, if you're in the right area, there's big deer. So I was like, okay, I'll try it. So I think what I'm going to end up doing is either buying a 1 day or a 2 day. Arkansas is pretty cool because they go from like 1 day to like 5 day, and it like ranges up in price and tag, and so you can kind of ease your way into it. So I don't have a whole lot of days to hunt. So I'm trying to convince Justin to go over there and hunt 1 day with me, like all day, because I found 2 really good spots.
What is it for 1 day?
$100, and you get, I think, 1 or 2 tags, either sex tag. So if I could go over to Arkansas and shoot a 100-incher, I would be jacked up.
I'd shoot a spike, to be honest. Just set the tone.
Just to let him
You
know.
were trying to make me shoot a spike in Kansas. I don't want to hear it.
That was to be fair, we agreed upon it before the hunt, and 2, it was negative 20 degrees, and it was like 3 days before the season ended.
I remember it was Christmas Day, I think, wasn't it? It was like Christmas
It wasn't
Day or
Christmas
the day
Day.
before
It was
Christmas.
it was the day before or after.
Yeah,
It was
and
after,
you were
I
like,
think.
Carol, come with us, and I'm like, dude, you couldn't pay me $1 million.
We did see a good one,
It
though.
was like 4 degrees with a wind chill of literally
That's
negative
why
17.
That's why we popped up a blind.
Oh, it was,
because
no,
we were
it
like,
was
yeah.
negative 28.
And I was like, nah, no way, dude. Like, there's no way.
But that's why we agreed to shoot the spike, is because Jake, as we're walking in, we're both like, I mean, like, you put your head down and the
dude,
wind
it was
is
bad because like the wind was coming sideways
So
because
did the
it was
heater
that
get you off the
blizzard.
rip?
And
No.
the funny thing is he just got those
Fanatic.
those wireless mics,
Oh, yeah.
and so I was carrying the blind
And a lawn chair.
and a lawn chair, and I was just like, and of course he had it clipped to my shirt, and I was just trucking like we were going, like the wind was hitting us in the back, and then we get all the way around this little bend, and we go to start setting up. He's like, "Where's your mic?" And I was like, "I don't know."
And these are like $300 mics. We're like, well, where is it?
So what I did is
Dude,
tried
it's
to
too cold to even worry about it.
I tried to trace my footprints in the snow, but it was snowing so hard and like the wind was so like I got halfway across this field and my tracks were no more. And I was like, holy and so like I was just like looking the whole time, and then finally he calls me, he's like, "Hey, it was stuck to the lawn chair." And I was like, thank God.
Because it was a magnet,
Yeah.
and it was stuck to the bottom of his chair because he had it over his shoulder.
I was trying to like look down on the ground, but of course I wear glasses, and so like my glasses were basically froze, and then my eyelids, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die.
It was negative
'cause
28.
That was that next day, Jared, I think Nathan, and I think it was that next day we went out and slayed the geese out around where we hunt.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I just remember going and thinking, or you guys were asking me, I was like, there's just no way.
Well, we tried it, and it was like I
Wrong
wanted
side of the field.
I want to defend myself on the spike comment. It was negative 28. We said, all right, dude, we're shooting the first thing. We hand shook in the car. We're shooting the first thing we see. And he said, absolutely. A spike. So
I had to say that to get him to go. I mean, hell, come on now.
I'm filming. I'm like, shooting the first thing, right? And he's like, yeah.
Absolutely. No doubt.
there, bro.
No doubt.
We've all been there.
But
You just get
we're like not
pissed
even
off
done
enough,
setting
you're
up
just
the
like,
blind
God,
yet.
test me.
We're not even done setting up the blind yet, and all of a sudden we see this wide 8-point, and we're like, immediately I was like, I'm not shooting a spike.
The
There
8
was
point,
like-
350 yards across the field. We're both bino. I'm like, that's a good deer.
How
then-
do we get to him?
No. Then like right before dark, like an hour later probably, a spike comes by at 50, and I go, and Jake goes, no, and I go, dude, come on, and he goes, no. He said, I'll come back tomorrow and try to hunt that deer, and I was like, no. I was like, please, just shoot the spike, and he's like, no, dude, no. There's 3 days left of season.
Couldn't do it.
Oh, that's
It's not that you couldn't; it's that you wouldn't.
that's so funny.
He should have. Now,
That's so
everybody from Kansas that's listening to this right now is like, you guys suck. Trying to convince him to shoot a spike. I mean, I don't regret it, though. That was going to be
Well,
awesome.
there's no bigger deer there because we don't know because y'all are not allowed to have cameras no more. So
Yeah.
who's the real losers here?
I just remember I was really going through some stuff back at home. And I was like, hey, I'm going to be there a day late. Just like, don't mess anything up. And then Jake went to my spot and scared the biggest deer.
To be
in
fair,
Kansas out of it.
that was another ill-advised recommendation by Christian.
That was not ill-advised.
He
I
said,
was like, literally, dude, I don't care if you go and you sit
First of all,
there.
how did this become Carol's spot?
This
in
was
any
just
way,
my
shape, or
spot.
form?
This is just I just claimed it. I found it, remember?
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, I don't care what you do, just like do it right. And then Jake ends up like, I need to tell you something. I was like, just don't.
Just how big
Did
was
you?
it?
Did you shoot one? No.
we
Then
only
don't-
had
just don't
one
tell me.
vehicle. I'm pretty sure
Just
we
don't tell
only
me.
had one vehicle down there. And Christian was like, I really want to hunt this spot. And I was like, where am I going to hunt? And he was like, hunt right here. And I was like, you think Carol will get mad? Because you're coming the next day. And he's like, no, like if I wasn't here and that was my spot, I'd expect you to hunt it. And I was like, that sounds
Fair point.
legit.
That's a good point.
To be fair, that deer was only in there like twice. Like that you scared out. He was only.
I mean, I had him on trail camera. And as soon as I like checked the trail camera and seen him, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
daylighted like 2 days before.
Yeah. Well, he was in there like I think a few weeks, and then like 2 days before, and then you saw him, and he wasn't like consistent. I don't think in there, but
Consistent enough to die.
yeah. Yeah. and
you were in the chips, though.
You were too.
Thanks
to me.
absolutely.
That
Thanks to
literally
you.
that next day, I remember going in there and I heard. I was like, "Oh, here we go." I turn around, whoop, you see a crossbow pull out of the bushes. I'm like, "You, oh, all right,
Saying anything?
yeah." Well, the guy he walked up to me. He was so nice. He was so nice, but I just wanted to grab him, shake him, and be like, "Dude, what the hell are you doing?"
What was your plan?
Yeah. Hey, you see anything? I'm like, he said, well, I just scared two doe. Did you not see them run across the field? I was like, no, that's downwind of me, dude. No, I'm not looking that way. He's like, well, what do you want me to do? I was like, just go back the way you came.
You guys are a mile off the road and he's trying to get coached.
Yeah.
What do you want me to do? I don't know.
The
What
best
was your
part, dude,
plan?
is he walked up all the way to my tree, said, you see anything? I was like,
What
"No."
is that like when you're like this?
Yeah, I was like, no. He goes, you didn't see those two doe that I scared out? I'm like, no, that's the bedding that you're walking through. That
It's really
finger?
thick back there.
Yeah. I was like, yeah. He's like, well, I don't want to mess up the rest of your hunt. Where do you want me to go? I was like, just go back the way you came. I just start packing my shit right there. I was like, all right, well, this hunt's over. I remember texting you guys, lake spot's out.
Oh, that spot got run twice then.
Yeah.
I almost shot that buck that Jake almost shot. And I remember when Jake came out and he's like, dude, I scared a big one. And I was like, I saw him. Because when he came in, I was like, oh, wow, that's big. Dude, he was framey.
Yeah, he's
Let me
180,
tell you,
wasn't he?
I had a devil on my shoulder coming out because I was like, do I even tell him about this? Like, do I even tell him about the screw up? Because we got him on camera, and I was like, they're going to be so mad at me. Like, I just now screwed the pooch. And then you're like, you started spilling like, dude, I seen a big buck. And I was like, I know.
Well, he was at 50, and all that was poking out was like basically halfway of his body and his butt. And I was like, well,
Hey, there's arteries back there.
yeah.
I wouldn't know about where to hit it, but
Yeah, there
There's
are some
arteries back
arteries. Yeah, I was like, no, I can't do it. I mean, because I remember his doe went right underneath me, and I was like, you're lucky. Because I usually would shoot a doe. I was like, you're lucky.
Yeah, dude, we were so far back there. At least where we set, I was like, dude, don't shoot a doe. Do not shoot a doe.
Yeah. Well, I hope things start dying this week. I think I'm gonna go shoot a doe in the morning. You guys want me to knock the dust off? Somebody got to get the killing started. You gonna shoot a doe?
I
You
told you
probably
I
should.
want to shoot a fawn if I want to.
We're at a spot where it wouldn't be too bad. Like even
When I say I'm literally maybe 150 yards off the road, that's how far I am.
yeah.
Well, then you should absolutely shoot a doe.
Mine's not distance wise, but just the
It's
up,
easy.
down, up, down,
It's
up,
easy.
down, to where it's like, I probably won't, but I don't know, dude.
Historically, we do better when we start
Every
shooting does.
single time, I'm like, I'm not going to shoot a doe, and it bites me in the ass every time. Because they're like, oh,
This is what I want
what
to
are
do.
you up there?
I'm going to watch a doe, and I want to be like, nothing? Okay.
I mean, that's what I'm going to go. I'm sure when I go out and try to shoot a doe, there's going to be a 150-inch buck behind her, and I'm just going to be like,
That's when you call
Carol,
me
how
and
much
say,
are you selling your tag for? I'm gonna say 300.
that's terrible. Yeah,
do it.
I'm shooting a doe, and I'm sure when Justin gets here, he's going to be shooting does. So somebody just got to knock the dust off and get the kill.
Yeah, that's the
started.
cool thing is if we shoot him, dude, Justin will be like, I'll clean him.
That is true. He volunteers.
Yeah,
a lot.
he's like, you get it up here to the he needs to bring his
Winch.
yeah.
Yeah,
Does he have it?
I think it's on the meat wagon.
Yeah, if he's got it, dude, that like solves a lot of problems.
Do you guys remember last year when Justin shot his 165 and I shot a doe and they cut the head off both of them and they were laying next to each other? Do you guys remember that? When Justin's body was like 98 pounds of that buck that he shot?
Well, I was gonna say you couldn't tell the difference.
No.
could you?
I think the doe I shot was bigger bodied than the buck. Like dude, the recurve buck that I shot was 113 field dressed. Those does at the least are bigger than that.
Oh
113
yeah,
field dressed.
dude. There are our does live weight. They're probably like 150s. Yeah.
Yeah, this buck was 113 field dressed, and I was like, man, makes for good pictures.
Yeah.
It makes for really good pictures when they're 113. But I'm excited, boys. I think it's about time for some bed.
Yep.
Some Z's. But
Yes.
thank you guys. Oh, I did want to talk about something right quick. So the Exodus Vault is new. Jake wanted me to share that with you guys, Jake Hofer. It is basically the place where Exodus is putting all their on-sale items, so cameras that are going out of stock or that are going that aren't going to be released anymore. They're not going to do any more production runs.
They also got arrows that basically those arrows that when they cut it to order and some of them get cut wrong, they basically stack those up and they sell
big
them
batch.
for a discounted price.
Yeah, so there's all kinds of. I think there's discounted apparel, arrows, cameras, nothing that's has any defects or anything like that. So make sure to go check out the Exodus Vault.
And you cannot use discount codes on that.
Can't use discount codes, but it's a great place to save some bread. So I'm looking at probably the biggest spider I've seen in my entire life. So we will, with that, make sure to leave us a rating and review. And we will catch you guys live from deer camp in the next one. Bye.
Hey, Jesus love you.
Jake, that is huge. No, watch your hand.
Where is it?
So down by, look, no, I'm being serious. See it right there? Look, come here. Come to the left. See it down by your thing? Just. That one. There's one right here too, Jake.
Jake, there's one right there too.
Thank you guys so much for checking out the Hunter's Advantage podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to the podcast. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you in the next episode.